to the Northeast Ohio Intermuseum Council's workshop on archives and libraries. Many of our sites use the records and resources available at archives and libraries to help us tell the stories of our communities. In fact, just last week, I was over at Cleveland Public Library trying to determine all the places that Eliot Ness lived in Cleveland, which is apparently a really hotly contested topic. So it was great to have actual resources and facts that I can use to make that timeline. Today we'll hear from Judy Cetina and John Skrtic. After their presentations, we'll open up the meeting for questions. We can unmute everyone at the end, but you can also put your questions in the chat box if you'd like, down at the bottom center of your screen. And now I'm pleased to introduce our two speakers. First up will be Dr. Judy Cetina, who has worked at the Cuyahoga County Archives since 1977 and has served as its head archivist since 1985. Dr. Cetina is an adjunct professor at John Carroll University, a published author, a member of the Academy of Certified Archivists, and has served as a board member on the Ohio Historical Records Advisory Board and other related local and state organizations. She has a BA, MA, and PhD from Case Western Reserve University, as well as an MA in Theology and Religious Studies from John Carroll University. And second up is John Skrtic, who has been with the Cleveland Public Library for over 30 years. Before becoming Chief of Special Projects and Collections, he held a variety of librarian and managerial jobs across the system. Today, he manages all aspects of collections development system-wide, print, digital, and public art, technical services, special projects, and specialized services like the Public Administration Library, the Ohio Library for the Blind and Physically Disabled. He has extensive library experience and is responsible for overseeing the 11 million items in the library collection. He holds a Master's of Library and Information Science degree from Kent State University and a Master's of Public Administration from Cleveland State University. So we welcome our two speakers, and I'm going to hand it off to Judy to begin our program.
Well, thank you very much. That was a very generous introduction. I don't know how deserved it was, but I appreciate it anyways. So thank you very much for inviting me to speak this afternoon. I'd like to say I am broadcasting live from the Cuyahoga County Archives. If you can see behind me, I think right now all you may be able to see is the PowerPoint. But I am sitting in front of treasurer's tax duplicates that certainly go back to fairly early in the 19th century. We are in what we call our multi-purpose area. Research takes place here, and although the pandemic kept this from coming to fruition, we were hoping to introduce a series of lectures. So we are now equipped with all sorts of audiovisual equipment that we haven't been able to use. So I do hope that that will help happen in the future. So thank you very much. I'm going through a PowerPoint, not that I'm that big of a fan of PowerPoints, but when I enjoy talking to people about the archives, but sometimes I have to curb my enthusiasm, or we will be here till midnight, which I think Bob had kind of suggested, so I don't want that to happen, and I'm eager to hear what John Skrtic has to say. So if I focus on the PowerPoint, hopefully we will move along a little bit more swiftly. Just in a second, I'll start the slideshow, but I don't know if you can see the very first slide that's on the screen, where it says treasurers in the Cuyahoga County Archives, and you see two images. I don't mean to disappoint you, but you're not going to learn how to read a treasure map. And unfortunately, I have no idea where you can find a container of gold or pieces of 8. However, I am going to talk about some slightly different treasures. So let me start this slideshow. We'll see if it works here. All right. here we are. What kind of treasures? Since there's nothing that I can say is really tangible, I'd like to talk about the archives, architecture.
Judy, if you press the from beginning thing at the left.
Okie doke. Okay, that's much better. Thank you very much. I've only done this once before, and it was a good experience, except that my battery ran down, and right in the middle of the talk, I had to quickly find a place where I could charge on my computer, and running through the house looking for a cord, and then I ended up in the kitchen, and then I thought, how in the world do I get back on Zoom? And I did, and nobody had gone, you know, they were all sitting there patiently waiting for me. So please be understanding of my sometimes limited skills. Okay, we've already talked about archives, architecture, and ancestry. I certainly think that our holdings are invaluable. Our records date from 1810, as I'll mention later. We have the very first Cuyahoga County Commissioners Journal, and their first meeting was on June 6th of 1810. I also think that the records can help us to document in the growth and development of the urban community that we are a part of here in Cleveland. What are the responsibilities of the archives? We are part of Cuyahoga County government, and we were established in 1975, and we were under the jurisdiction of the Board of County Commissioners. Currently, we are an agency within the Department of Public Works, and this is when the county adopted a charter system of government. So we are within that under Public Works. We look at ourselves as providing three basic services. We preserve inactive county records that are kept on a continuing basis. Many of them are historical, but some have legal value, some have fiscal value, some have administrative value, and that calls upon the archives to continue to preserve that information. We kind of wear another hat, and that's in terms of preparing retention schedules and trying to coordinate the records management activities for Cuyahoga County. And then I guess the one that I feel the most strongly about is making those records accessible to the public. We can have everything in a beautiful, pristine repository, but if we don't allow anybody to look at the records, to use the records, we're really not living up to our potential. This is just showing you a couple of forms that are used as part of our records management function. A retention schedule. Every office and agency in county government is to have a retention schedule. And when records are destroyed, and no, we don't burn them in some sort of bizarre ritual. They can only be destroyed in coordination with the retention schedule. So I wanted to spend a few minutes talking about our new location. There might be some of you who remember when the county archives was on the near west side in Ohio City on Franklin Boulevard. It opened there in 1977 and was there until 2017. The building was sold, as was the house next door, the Nelson Sanford House. Robert Russell Rhodes House was built in 1874. That housed the archives, and the Sanford House was built in 1862. So the decisions were made. The county sort of felt it had too many buildings, and it might be more feasible and fiscally sound to reduce the number of buildings. So we moved in 2017 along with our records, but the third floor of the building that we're in right now, which is on Perkins Avenue, 3951 Perkins at the corner of East 40th Street. So we have taken, many steps forward to be in as much as I loved the Rhodes House and its high ceilings and its its ghosts and all the things that went with it. I must say I'm most appreciative of our new settings and the other new equipment, new shelving that went along with it. Our rules and regulations are really quite simple. There's no smoking, of course, in the building. And we ask that people use pencils only in the research area. We used to have a sign that said, no smoking, pencils only. And obviously, some people kind of got the wrong idea about it since we'd forgot to include some necessary punctuation. So let's move on. You know, I'm going to spend a few more minutes just talking about some things in general that are not really covered on the screen here. And just to let you know what your visit might be like if you come to the county archives. We do have free parking facing the building on East 40th Street. You get out of your car, you go around the corner. You can enter the building off of Perkins Avenue. There are steps as well as a ramp if someone, you know, has a walker or is coming in a wheelchair. You come into a small vestibule. We do have a way that you can sort of ring the bell and you can connect to us on the 3rd floor. We know you're there. You simply announce that you're here to do research, and then we can release the double doors that lead you into the main lobby. I made a mistake once of telling someone I would buzz them in, and I waited for a while and I thought, why didn't that person, you know, they should have been here by now. And I later found out he was waiting for me to buzz him in. So I have to be very careful when I explain that. Now, when you come into our lobby, we do have certain pandemic related procedures. We do ask that you wear a mask, and you will also be asked to self-test. And at that point, you will just take your temperature. You stand in front of this screen and you wait until you hear the voice telling you that you have passed, that you have a normal temperature. And if you do, you can just proceed to the elevator, go up to the 3rd floor. We're making sure people social distance, usually only 2 people on the elevator at a time. Then you'll come up into our little hallway, and there's another place where you will, or lest I say, we will buzz you in again, but we will know you are there. We pick up the phone and then the door is released and you are finally in the county archives. When you come in, we do ask that you sign in. Right now, we are only admitting individuals by appointment only. There are a variety of reasons for that. We've certainly taken certain precautions. We've put up plexiglass wherever possible. We have hand sanitizing stations available. We, at this point, have a very small staff. There are only 2 of us now in on a regular basis, and I have 2 staff members who are out on FMLA. So just for the 2 of us to be able to carry out all the functions of the archives, you know, plus work with researchers that are coming in. However, if you've been to the archives before, or you have a really good idea of the type of records that you are interested in, we certainly are happy to give you an appointment. It's not that difficult. You don't have to fill out any forms. You would just let us know. If we can do the work for you, we will. Last month, the month of March, we had close to 90 individual requests for information. So we do have a wonderful group of volunteers, but many people are awaiting second dose. And I can understand why people are of the vaccine and are skeptical to come in. So we are sort of in a not quite there and fully open the archives. I would hope maybe at the beginning of the summer we'll be able to do that. Normally we're open Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. So that's weekly from 8:30 in the morning until 3 in the afternoon. So once you come, you will move rather quickly. You've signed in and you can take a seat. We have two areas. One is sort of reserved for those individuals who are going to use some of our equipment, whether it's the old reader printers or the new reader scanners, the Scan Pros. We have two of those now. We also have we have computers that are available for public use. We have Wi-Fi, which we never had before in the Rhodes House. So that's a plus, and you can bring your own equipment with you. We have plenty of ways so that you can connect and get online if you need to do that. We have a couple of study carrels that are available, especially if you might be coming in over a period of time and perhaps there's certain books or documents that you'll want to have held in that particular area. In the room just beyond that, we have a much longer table. And if we are bringing any records that are oversized, we will bring it to that particular area for you to review. One thing we didn't have on Franklin are exhibit cabinets. So unfortunately, we haven't really had an opportunity to refresh our exhibits, unfortunately. We had them for our grand opening, which was in September of 2018. And we sort of did a 1968, 2018 timeframe. And so we had some images related to Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., to Robert Kennedy. We have at least one exhibit case where we have some of our older records that you can take a look at. We have another exhibit cabinet, which still has some information and documentation that came from the Soldiers and Sailors Monument. We really wanted to do much more as far as that was concerned. So when you come to do research, if you bring somebody with you who's not too interested in the whole research process, they can go and they can take a look at the exhibit. So that kind of gives you a little bit of an introduction. As I said, the rules and regulations are not that onerous. We have a lovely area now. We actually have like a kitchen, and if you are coming to do research under ordinary circumstances, you could put your lunch up, you can put any of your beverages, etc. You can enjoy your lunch there. So I think that's probably enough to maybe whet your appetite to come in and see what other things that we have available. So now you're probably saying, okay, I really do appreciate that. But you mentioned earlier something about architecture. So what is architecturally significant about the building that you're in? The building on Franklin was built in 1874. The house next door, as I mentioned, 1862. The Rhodes family was well known in the business community. James Ford Rhodes was Robert Russell Rhodes' brother. Marcus Hanna was the brother-in-law to James Ford and to Robert Russell Rhodes. So it's quite the family. And we had very high ceilings. We had sort of the darker colors, which would have been appropriate in a Victorian structure, the ghosts that we had that everybody always came looking for. So there was much to sort of rave about when you talked about architecture. However, in this building, I can tell you a few things. It was built in 1914, and it had a variety of owners. At one time was known as the McBride Building, and I had a little bit of difficulty trying to figure out who this McBride person was. I do believe that this would connect to the company, which is known as Root and McBride, and they were leading purveyors of the sale of dry goods. So there was John McBride and his brother Leander and his son Malcolm. Malcolm, I found out, went to Yale University, was a star football player, and was also the coach of the team for a while. And he later came and joined into the family business. In 1930s.
Hey, Judy, I'm going to jump in and say you have about 5 more minutes for your
Okay,
part.
well, thank you very much. Okay, I know we were talking about it. So, all right, let's see. Now we're going to do speed speaking, and we will go through this as quickly as we can. So I will kind of move through here. Let's talk about some of the records that we have. We do have records of wills and estates from 1813 to 1918. We look at the, what can we learn from these documents that tell you what it was like, what was the, life like in the early 19th century. Moving on, we do have, I also find out that wills and estates can give us or provide a window into values and mores, just like the gentleman who said he was not going to leave his treasure, his money to his daughter because he couldn't trust that no good son-in-law of mine. So I guess that was the start of that family feud. We do have the coroner's case files from 1837 to 1900. We found out that they deal with things like murder, suicide. It showed a lot about the lack of safety in the workplace, and accidents were not involving automobiles, but the railroad and streetcar instead. We do have divorce case files from 1876 to 1882. Probably the funniest one that I can recall is the man who charged his wife with mental and physical cruelty because she chased him around the barnyard with a hatchet. I talked before about the Common Pleas Journal. One of the first items of business set a bounty for wolf scalps. So I guess you have a sense you were no longer in Kansas anymore. We do have the Roll of Honor from Soldiers and Sailors Monument Commission, and we do have some other documents on documentation regarding Veterans Affairs. Our abstracts of votes, you can learn how the country voted in national elections. They begin in 1893, and we have them until 1974. Also of interest are the lists of electors from 1893 to 1982, and you can find out who is eligible to vote in various wards and precincts of the city and in the county. Again, they're of interest, certainly the records to ancestry, including birth records from 1873 to 1908. This is a sample of a birth record. Probably doesn't look like yours, but they were known as returns of birth. We have records from 1810 to 1941. And I'll just mention, we have 2 celebrity couples who were married in Cleveland, and that was Nathan Birnbaum, and you might know him better as George Burns, and his wife, Grace C. Allen. And we also have the marriage records for Dean Martin and his wife, and they were married in Cleveland Heights. Naturalization records help you research your immigrant ancestor. You can see the dates that are listed, 1818 to 1971. We talked about this at the very beginning, how you can trace not only your family tree, but your home's family tree. Talked about the real estate appraisal cards that date from 1935 until about 1970, and how you can actually access them. You can certainly give us a call if you would like a card for your home. And we also have auditor's maps from 1860 to 1945 and tax records from 1818 until 1986. So I hope this will encourage you to visit the archives. And on the last slide, this is not a very good photograph of our building, but it gives you the general idea. We have the address on it, our hours of operation. We're no longer closed to the public on Tuesdays. And then we also have our mission statement. So I think I did pretty good for getting all of that done in 5 minutes. So despite my digressions at the very beginning. So thank you very much. And I hope you've learned something about the Cuyahoga County Archives.
Thanks. And we'll have people hold their questions until the end. And I'm going to turn this over to John, or Bob's going to turn it over to John to talk about Cleveland Public Library.
Could you please stop sharing the screen?
Okay, I need to know how I do that. It just says your screen share. Oh, stop share. Okie dokie. Here we go. Gotcha. There we are. And if you want me to, okay, I think I'm already muted, so.
Yeah.
All set. All right, thanks, Judy. That was really good. It's always cool to see what you have compared to Cleveland Public Library. I'm just going to kind of take you through a little bit short history. So Cleveland Public Library is one of the nation's leading public libraries. We opened our doors on February 17th, 1869. We are a school district library governed by 7-member board of trustees. And still today we are a school district library. So we're under the Board of Education. Our first neighborhood library opened up in 1892, very close to the West Side Market. And we now have in our system 27 neighborhood branch libraries. We also have an Ohio Library for the Blind and Physically Disabled, which we work with the full state to get materials to people throughout our state. And then we have a branch library in City Hall, and I'll talk about that a little bit later. So our beautiful main library that I'm sure some of you have been to opened in May of 1925, great architecture. So it's always, unfortunately, unlike Judy, I'm at my castle here in West Park. I'm not at main library today. So I hope that you can come down, but we have, I always say, one of the, if not the most beautiful building in Cleveland. So right now we have close to 700 staff members in our system, spread out throughout each of our neighborhood libraries and our technical services division and main library. So I'm kind of rotating around the city, constantly patrolling. Just recently, I took on a new job where we're focusing on collections mostly, but I've been overseeing the branches and main library for the last 10 years. So always great to have these little amazing communities in each of our Cleveland neighborhoods. So get to know the people of and all of the history of each little organization and each little neighborhood. So we've been collecting Cleveland for 153 years. I thought I'd take you through some of the collection highlights at main library because our neighborhood libraries are mostly popular based. You get your new books, your new DVDs, your new audiobooks, but downtown is where you're kind of taking a little bit of a deeper dive for research materials. So if we start in main library, we have our international languages department where we house 50 languages. And, over the years, going back, we're a big Hungarian community, German community. We have one of the world's greatest Yiddish and Hebrew collections. We have all these amazing languages and we still carry today. Right now, Russian is still one of our most popular languages. Chinese, Spanish, Japanese is really still up there. So we kind of look at the trends of how I will order during the year based on what people are asking for and what they want. But Russians never let me down. They are big readers, so it's always good to kind of get them what they need. We have our youth services division, which is at main library. It has one of the world's greatest retrospective children's collections. So if you come down and you're looking for a book from your youth, or you want to do a little bit deeper dive on the history of children's literature and scholarly research, this is where you would find our youth services. And it's also a great place. We have an art lab and we have a teen center. And the teen center is great. We have tons of kids coming in, before COVID, and I'm sure it'll happen again. They come in and they play their video games, and we've created spaces for young ones across the Cleveland school system and neighboring suburbs. They come in every day. We do puppet shows for them. So it's really exciting to see how the kids get to see this great museum space downtown. Our newest venture was our Cleveland Digital Public Library. And what we did was we created a space, and Bob's been there. He was saying earlier, you can digitize your own family photographs, family Bibles, cookbooks. You come down, we give you access to state-of-the-art printers and scanners, and we'll show you how to do that. And you can leave with, content created item at Main Library. So all these great images you see on Facebook and Twitter and Instagram, a lot of people do some of that digitization work for free at Cleveland Public Library. One of the things we're most proud of is our special collections. We house the world's greatest chess library in downtown Cleveland. And in our special collections, we're always, trying to get kids and adults to come down and see this magnificent room with the world's smallest books we have. We have really strong in folklore and Orientalia. So our special collections is sort of our little crown jewel at Main Library where everybody should come. And that's a place you have to see when you come down and visit us. Our fine arts is also on the same floor. There's books on arts, sheet music, architecture. That is a department where a lot of Cleveland Orchestra members will come to look at the history of sheet music. So the great thing about CPL is we've been collecting for 150 years, but we're not like an organization that is out of space and weed. Our mission is to preserve the cultural and historical legacy of our city. And we take it real serious, and we put money behind what we decide to preserve, from working with outside agencies like the Interconservatory Museum, ICA. We have public art. So anything that comes in or that I accept to our collection is going to be taken care of. So we're really proud of that legacy. Our literature department is one of the largest, again, in the nation of fiction, poetry, drama, film. Big thing is comic books and graphic novels now. We have a really amazing collection there. And then our popular department is on our first floor of Main Library, because that's where people who are working in the downtown workforce or most people just want to run in, get their DVD, get their book, get their audiobook. So they run in and out. So we try to make it really easy for them to come downtown and just kind of grab and get out of there. A lot of times people know what they want. Some people will come down and spend a day and do research, but other people just want to just grab and they know where to go. And then of course, we were the first library in the country to offer ebooks through a library. So we were the first through a small program with Overdrive. We digitized some of our books, and we worked with them to see if people would be interested. And now it's a worldwide phenomenon. Many people read just through their Kindles and through the Overdrive and the Libby app. So that was a great thing that we did early on. And now every library is doing this. We can't keep all of the books that are on hold. We can't order enough. It's just constant. So I want to talk about our Lewis Stokes wing. A lot of you know that it's on the site of the old Plain Dealer building downtown. We built in 1997 the wing of Cleveland Public Library. And in this 10-floor story building, we have a lot of storage, of course, is our mission to keep books on available, but housed through like compact storage. And we're constantly running to get items for people and researchers every day. But we have our science department there, and they have photography, engineering, one of the world's great dog collections, one of the world's great cookbook collections. And I'm not just saying this like we've been doing our collection development policy right now, and we're matching ourselves up against Harvard, Library of Congress, New York Public, and Boston. And over, we see the Cleveland Public Library residents and taxpayers beautifully have supported us to make us the world-class organization that we are. And you're not going to find these things anywhere else. So I get excited when I have an audience to say, please come down, because this is the stuff that you paid for, you built, your grandparents built, and it's here for you. So I'm always wanting people to come down and see what's theirs. Our business and economics and labor department, we kind of cover the newest trends in accounting, careers, and real estate. So we have all of our floors dedicated to specific genres or items. In 1886 at Cleveland Public Library, we started our government document collection, and that kind of covers U.S. Census, laws and regulations, Office of the U.S. President. A lot of this is online, but if you're doing reports or you're learning about government, it's important for kids to come to this department and see what's available, and that the government should be for the people and be open, accessible to them. Our social sciences department is very popular because it has our sports research center. All of us know Clevelanders are crazy about their Cleveland sports team. So we have a small wing dedicated to Cleveland sports. Over the 150 years, we collect everything. And besides Cooperstown, we have the best baseball collection in the nation. It's really impressive. Going back to the beginning of baseball, we collected at the highest level. We'll pretty much purchase anything that's produced on baseball. And in that department, we also have the United Nations collection. And then I was the manager there in 2008, and I kept getting questions about yearbooks. People like, oh, do you have yearbooks? And we didn't have many. So I said, what the heck, let me just call everybody. And I just called every historical society or any alumni group, and we were able to grow our Cleveland yearbook collection. So now we went from 80 copies. Now we have 1,200. And the reason it's important is that we digitize these yearbooks, and they are our #1 most popular digitized item. People love to look up their family, and they get to see their yearbook. So if you're interested in loaning me your yearbook, I'll take it and I'll give it back to you. I would love to digitize it because people like that. And we focus on Cleveland, but if someone will give me a huge set, I'll definitely take their full set. Like Lakewood just gave me everything, Cleveland Heights. We try to be comprehensive. And then one of our biggest things is our photograph collection. And Judy was saying that she has used it for some of the books that she's authored and Bob's familiar with, but we have 1.3 million photographs. And our Cleveland collection is really important because the more we digitize, the more opportunity there are for Clevelanders and researchers to learn about their community and to create, new works. So if you haven't been in our digital gallery, we have tons of stuff digitized, but we don't have enough staff to do it. I'm only digitized 3% of our collection. And, the sky's the limit. The more we put up, the more interest there is. And that's located in our Center for Global History. We cover Europe history and local history and genealogy. And genealogy is the hot topic probably in a lot of your organizations and a lot of things you work with. We can't do enough genealogy programs. It's just constantly growing field. I mentioned our public administration library. It's the official depository for all publications and reports for the city of Cleveland. So if you're looking to do find some information about Cleveland City Council or ordinances or anything going back to the beginning of Cleveland, it's all housed in our City Hall library. And then as Cleveland Public Library is still a very important research-based organization, we also have to balance that with what our patrons need today. And what they need is access to computers. So we built a Tech Central division where we have over 100 computers available at our downtown campus. You come in, free access will help you learn how to use a computer, learn how to use a mouse. At all of our neighborhood libraries, we have free access. And we've just started distributing hotspots so you can get free Wi-Fi at your home. I can't order enough of those as a collection manager. They're really expensive, but it's what our Clevelanders need. So that's an important resource that will continue to kind of grow in the next few years. And then just kind of touching on what Judy said with genealogy, we have a lot of microfilm, and we have all of the history of Cleveland News, the Press, the Plain Dealer, Cleveland Jewish News, Call and Post. Some of it's digitized and available at cpl.org. But if it's not digitized, we have it on microfilm. Our microfilm collection, for those of us who have used it in the past, it's invaluable. We try to, it's funny to watch kids come in and show them how to use microfilm. They're kind of like it's like science fiction to them. but it's still something that our researchers use daily with the census and the marriage records, telephone directories, our local clipping files, and number one is our necrology file, our death indexes and obits. So that gives you a long-winded 11 million items. I could go on, as Judy said, forever. So I just wanted to give you sort of a taste of what you can get in Maine Library. So thanks for listening.
Great, thank you, John. Do we have any questions? You can either unmute yourself or type them in the chat. I actually have a question. I'm thinking it's for John, but Judy may have resources. We often, I know when I work in historic house museums or working with a community, people want to know who built their house, what architect was connected to their house. Do you have architect records or things like that in your collection?
Yeah, I think Judy, you might even be stronger than Cleveland Public on some of that. So if you want to go first, then I can.
On the building cards, that's one thing that is normally not included, and that would be the name of the architect. You might consider building permits. If it's within the city of Cleveland, you might check with their building department in City Hall, or perhaps with the City Council archives. There are talking about some of the resources at the library. I frequently go to the historic plain dealer, and it sometimes is possible to find articles about, certain homes, and that might also reflect on who the architect might have been. And then I know that they have, I think it's a database on architects. And that's I think the Landmarks Commission at the City of Cleveland. And you can access this online. Right now, they will go by the name of the architect, and then there'll be a list of the various buildings. So that might be a really good resource. I just recently, became aware of it. So I would suggest checking that. Outside of genealogical records, one of the areas of interest where people come to the archives is they are tracing the history of their home. And so we try to become aware of, all possible resources, including, we can probably tell you who likely, built the home or had the home built, but it's a little bit more difficult to readily find architect information. Many areas, cities do not keep those kinds of records. They don't, keep blueprints or drawings. So it can be, that can be a little bit more difficult.
I think for, the more adventurous researcher, we have a map collection, and we do have some, besides the Sanborn, the plat maps. If you kind of are willing to put in the time, you might get lucky. As Judy said, it's always a hit or miss, as a researcher, but with our map collection and the directories of the suburbs for Cleveland, you can kind of find some things, and it's just, you're always happy if you find a new lead to move ahead your research.
Anyone else have questions?
I had a question for John, and he talked something about the international, and then I didn't get the full name of it, but it sounded interesting. It was like a department.
Yeah, it was previously titled Foreign Literature, but we have renamed the department. It's International Languages, and we carry 50 languages. So what we do now is try to decide on what's going on in Cleveland, what groups are moving in, and then buy accordingly, the languages and the books they need. Like over the last 20 years, we've really stepped our Arabic collection, and we know that our Chinese community really loves to come in. They call Saturday Family Day, and they read an amazing amount of books. And I love when they come in, because I know all the things that we ordered are going to go out. And when I was saying that we have these great historical collections like Hungarian and German, and Yiddish and Latvian, Lithuanian, Slovenian, Croatian. These are things that people will still come in. Surprisingly, I'm always amazed and happy when I have someone who's dying for a Lithuanian book from the 40s. I'm like, I didn't think anyone would ever want to use this, but it makes me happy that we kept all of this stuff. And our end goal, Will, is to digitize it, once it's out of copyright, because, space is a premium and there's all these competing interests. But if you want to learn a language too, you can use our online platform or come to this department and learn any of the languages. We buy learning language software.
So is this what you were talking between the digital gallery and the genealogy program? Was that what you were mentioning between those two?
Yeah, that's one piece of it. Each department has sort of a small budget to buy digital platform items per their department. So like we'll try to, this Rosetta Stone and Duolingo, those learning language softwares are, really popular because people want to learn a language.
Okay, thank you.
John Bob McKim from the South Euclid Lyndhurst Historical Society. I did a really quick kind of search to try to find out if you had Brush High School yearbooks there. I didn't seem to find anything. I know our historical society at one time helped Brush get a more complete set of yearbooks from our yearbook collection. So we actually decimated our yearbook collection to make sure that they had a pretty good selection. If they were willing to have these digitized, who would we contact?
It would be me, because then I'll decide if we can, I look at the workflow of like it's funny. I just had a Brush, someone reached out to me. I think one of your mascots at one point at Brush was Ready Kilowatt. And I was doing some research on Ready Kilowatt and what years Brush decided to take on that. So, it's just a good example of there is interest there. But Bob, if you wanted to, reach out, my email's online, or, I can give you my number. We're always glad to work and, digitize and give them back if you don't want to gift them to the library.
Okay, thank you.
John and Judy, thanks a lot for being here. Bob, were you done? Sorry,
Yeah.
I stepped on you. Greg Palumbo with the Lakewood Historical Society and NEOIMC. Thank you both for being here. John, I'm putting into the chat an ArcGIS website that I use a lot. Cleveland Public Library is listed as a source. So I'm wondering if you are a source or if you know of it about it, what wonderful person might have made this thing, and can we get more maps on it?
All right. Yeah, his name is Will Scora. He's sort of a map librarian, and he works at Cleveland Public Library. I'm pretty sure if, I'll have to look at that closely. I don't want to lose the photos, but it's probably Will, because he's always doing, he was in this Code for America group, and they were always meeting even before he started the library. It's always great to hire people who are super, super into like specific niche, nerdy things that we all love, so I think it was
fantastic. Probably, I use it like 2 times a week at least.
Oh, that's great. I'll make the day when I call him later.
It's a great quick reference.
I use it all the time. It's so fantastic. Yeah, but it needs to spread out and have wider boundaries beyond Cleveland.
He did a presentation at one of the American Library Association conferences, and we were kind of doing mapping fish fries in Cleveland because it's such a hot thing. And I was like, people are going to love this. Let's get this out here. And he was like, I don't think people want this. I'm like, they will. I want it.
Oh, tell them that it's wonderful. I owe him a beer.
Okay, they'll take it.
John, I have a question for you. I'm sorry, I interrupted somebody.
No, I was just about to ask if there were more questions.
Okay, well, okay. John, you had mentioned that the genealogy is a big hot topic there at your library, and you have speakers that come in. I do genealogy speaking, and I'm wondering, who is it? Who could I talk to about being considered as a speaker for your group?
Yeah, if you have a pen, I'll give you the number.
I got a pen in my hand right now.
It's
so.
Our manager's name is Olivia.
Okay.
Her last name is Hoge, and her number is 216-623-2888. 2864. So along with her librarian, Terry Metter, they've been doing programs and genealogy conferences. Of course, just like everyone last year, we were bummed out we couldn't do it because we were starting to get more people. But I think, Brian, they'd love to talk to you. And then, maybe not this year, but they'll put you in the docket because people would love even the virtual programs like we're doing now.
Yeah. Okay, cool. Thanks.
Mhm.
Any other questions or comments?
I just wanted to make a comment. This is Will again, and this is for you, Maisie. Maybe you know this, maybe you don't, but the county archives, so they have all the tax records, and I do a lot of research for both Bay Village and Westlake in terms of finding out the exact date that a house is built by looking at the tax records. And so it's not the architect's name, but you're able to pin down who it was, and then I'll use ancestry.com to get more information about the family. And by weaving through a whole bunch of records, I mean, I'll do a whole story on a house and the history of the house. So it's very labor intensive to get that exact year because you have to look at each book, of tax records. And often when it changes, it's either written in pencil or red, where they cross out the old value and then put in the new value. And so we do that for homeowners in terms of plaquing and that kind of thing. So.
Mhm. Yeah, I could spend hours looking at those tax duplicates. It's fun, but you also have to have your muscles ready for lifting and opening.
But the new shelving is much better because the books are
Yes.
more straight. They're not
Upright.
on each other.
No, I agree. We were just blessed to be able to have new shelving and also new cabinets for our real estate appraisal cards, which were in very awkward boxes that were stacked one on top of the other. And I remember one time I was standing, I shouldn't have been on a chair, and I remember the chair fell over and I was just sort of hanging on before I was able to drop to the ground. So now it's not nearly as treacherous. And I did my own home in Cleveland Heights, and years ago, I did it as a presentation. And I know it's taking all that information and getting names and finding out. And that was certainly a good experience for me. And I know it's valuable for a lot of people. So it's, when you mention even, genealogy, sometimes learning something about the family home is of particular significance. And to find a photograph, I've had people absolutely cry when they saw the photo and they remember what it was like, and they remembered visiting that house, whether it was grandparents. So it's just putting all of this information together to create a much broader picture of your family.
The other thing I used is we used to be the county auditor, but the fiscal office, Cuyahoga County Fiscal Office, where all the deeds are now online, and you can search them by name. It used to be looked overwhelming, but the form, really all you need is a date range and the name, first and last name of the owner, even just the last name. And I've been able to create chains of ownership going back to the beginning, and just another very valuable resource that's available online. So.
Yeah, I agree with that. I'd also mention that sometimes if you can't follow through using the deeds, that's when you need to come back and use either our auditor's maps or in order to find out the names that are missing in that larger chain.
Right. And that's where I use Cleveland Public Library, the Hopkins Platt books that have been digitized, because that can fill in a gap right there.
Mhm. All right, any other questions from folks? Well, I want to thank our two speakers. I will say, as someone who frequently does research at both of these institutions, one of my favorite things is how friendly and helpful everyone is. So you walk in, and if Judy doesn't have it, she can tell you where to go. When I was doing research on the Elliott Ness homes, the two gentlemen who were in that particular area of Cleveland Public Library were super helpful and brainstormed with me ways that we could really nail that down, and then sent me to the photo collection to find a picture. And I think they're just wonderful resources. So I appreciate very much. Thank you to John and Judy for sharing.
Thank you.
Thanks for having us.
everything that you've included today. And we appreciate any NEOIMC members coming in and anyone else who joined us today. If you have any other questions, feel free to email me, or I know that Judy put in her contact information, and obviously John will be easy to track down. So thanks very much, everyone.
Thank you, Maisie.
Thank you.